time.
All right.
Okay.
When did it go in?
I just sent it to your email within a half hour. So it'll be right at the top of your inbox. There it is.
Okay.
All right, so there's an attachment. So you just open up the attachment on screen.
That? Okay.
That one. Okay. Okay. And what you're going to see on screen right now was the original concept dating from 2016, where the board first tried to advance the idea of getting the classrooms transition from the open style, which besides the safety and security concerns, has a very high decibel level that goes along with it for the general learning environment, where transitioning these back to a full traditional classroom, would benefit both the safety and security and significantly improve the educational environment. Now on the screen, you see the existing condition of the different wings on the left-hand side. So at the top, you see that number 3 is there. So this is wing 3, which is the one closest to the main office. And the one on the left is the existing conditions. The one on the right is what a proposed transformation would be. So what you have on the left is corridors going down the outside perimeter of both sides of each wing. And all 10 classrooms in that wing are bunched to the middle. This is all done with soft side partitions between the spaces with an open space facing the hallway. There is a bookcase that's there right now, which we've done some enhancements to just basically put up some plywood and some sound absorbing material on it to try to deaden the sound between the areas. But it doesn't provide any benefit from a security and safety standpoint, and maybe provides 5 decibels of relief for the general noise level of all the different classrooms in the wing. So if you can visualize the left to the right, where you go from 2 corridors on the outside edges, which are 8 feet wide, roughly 16 feet of corridor space for the whole wing taken just to move people, to one central corridor, which is maybe 9 feet wide. You pick up space that can be put back into academic purposes. So you can see how it's transitioned, where you have one main center entrance in wing 3. You have outside corridor access to just the first 2 rooms, and then everything goes up and down through the middle, just like any other traditional school building. You can see that everything is going to be hard walled with.
You're talking about the proposed new wing scenario.
Correct, with cabinetry on the inside, lockers on the hallway side.
Is that going to be a problem if we have an increase in enrollment because we're doing away with 2 classrooms?
Well, you'll still have 10 spaces, and we have the ability here. This is just a 2-line drawing representing what we can do with the space. This is not a full finished set of drawings. And what will happen is you're going from approximately 600 square feet per classroom on the left to about 800 square feet on the right. We can make some decisions. Okay, like split the baby. Maybe you go 750 or 740, and all the classrooms stay the same size. Or you can go with 8 larger classrooms, which can support a little bigger enrollment in each. And those 2 smaller areas are the breakout spaces for specialty work, right. Special ed, tutorial. That's there, which we still have to make room for somewhere in the overall building.
I think we have another question, though. I heard a hand up.
Okay.
Does someone have a hand up?
Yeah, I do. Anastasia?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi, Lou. How are you? So I actually had the pleasure of, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. Just wanted to say that. But I had the pleasure of actually touring with Dr. Brummett the schools, and you were talking about that material on the wall. So this is my question. So I absolutely, after physically viewing it myself, thinks that John Wallace has some serious safety concerns. But what I did not like was, I don't like the redesign of the classroom. That carpet or whatever it's put on the walls was full of dust and filth. Is there anything that they can do differently as far as design? I mean, if that's a new classroom, maybe if we do new classrooms over, can we design them a little bit differently? I mean, I get it with the soundproofing, but it was really dusty, and I do think, I mean, I was absolutely like shocked that they had that open floor plan. But is there any like way we could have input in what it looks like? Because going to Martin Kellogg and seeing how nice and sleek and clean it was, just didn't compare to me. So how could we have input as a board and what it looks like possibly if we do go forward with something like this? Because I wasn't really impressed with the way it looked.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, part of the reason the prototype of the classroom was to give the staff the feel for what a 525, 550 square foot classroom would feel like to work in. We left the bookcase system in place that was there and just built out the 2 entranceways to simulate what that room would be like as a full build out. What would happen is if the limited version goes ahead, we would tear the prototype down and everything in there goes away, including the center section, and is rebuilt as a full brick and block setup with the full safety attributes. Right now, we didn't bother trying to do the center for safety attributes because we didn't know if this was going to be a permanent project moving forward. So we just tried to give the staff the feel for what it would be like working in those spaces rather than.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. So you're saying I was just looking at the size and the layout, not essentially like the furniture, the texturing on the wall. Like, is that a carpet?
Right, that carpet, that wall carpeting has been there over 10 years.
I don't know what it was, but it looked like carpet was all over the wall. I don't know what that is, but that.
Well, it was made of sound absorbing carpeting, which is fire rated walls.
Could possibly change that? Is that what you're saying? That's a possibility? Like get that changed and then just build up the closets?
Right, you'd have a traditional block wall set up in there, plus whatever attributes you build on either side. If it's lockers on one side and casework for storage on the classroom side, all those design details will still need to be figured out if we go that direction.
This is more overview.
Okay, and then my second question, sorry.
Just to clarify, Anastasia, we're talking about 2 different things. One is what you saw, and yes, it can be changed. 2 is Lou now describing what another possibility is just doing the renovation, and then we're going to present the different financial arrays that may come out of that. So there's 2 different concepts being discussed. This is actually, we haven't even gotten to the prototype yet. We're still discussing what a renovation might look like.
Right, because you'll see 2 very.
So renovating all the wings?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, it needs it. It is. How many seconds does it take for those doors to close? The principal never got back to me. When you hit that button, I mean, and they're like, what, 10 classrooms plus? How long does it take for those doors to close?
5 to 6.
Yeah, 5 to 10, I would think. Yeah. It's really more releasing the magnetic hold on it. It's not really on a powered close.
No.
Right, so just whatever the natural time is for those doors to retract. So it's probably around 10 seconds.
So in 10 seconds, someone can run right in there. That's a long time.
That's possible.
We are concerned that if that end door is breached, it does result in a pretty risky and dangerous situation. So we agree that safety, this configuration as it currently sits, is not conducive to safety in those 3 wings that are not currently enclosed. The 5th grade wing is newer because that was configured more recently.
Right, that was built with the addition in 1999.
Right.
Is that the one with the nice little center that we saw with the kids, like
correct,
doing the aircraft stuff? Oh, that's beautiful. So my other question is, you said in 2016 this was talked about. So I have one question for you, Lou. I know, Dr. Brummett, you weren't here in 2016. You've been here like 3 years. How much money was allocated towards fixing Martin Kellogg from 2016 till now? Was there any money in the CIP budget ever allocated towards like redoing these wings at all, either from the town or the whoever it comes from? Like, was that ever given? And maybe like things happen, like for example the John Patterson parking lot, we were intended to do other things, but because something costs more, was it ever put to the back burner at all?
Okay, In your statement, you said Martin Kellogg. Did you misspeak and mean John Wallace?
Yeah, sorry, I meant John
Okay.
John Wallace. Sorry, not Patterson.
Yes.
John Wallace. Yeah,
This
sorry.
basic concept was brought forward in 2016 and received traction for one budget year for 2017, where the town put $1 million into the a line item of the town CIP fund. Before the project got started, is the fuel release happened down at the bus garage, and the town defunded this project as a result of that because they wanted to use the financial resources to address anything from the fuel release project problem that was experienced. And nothing ever got resurrected since then. So it never got to, it got one initial funding for just $1 million. And we were looking to have, at that time, with prices and what we thought it would cost to get it done compared to what things are now and the new regulations up at the state, that cost has grown geometrically for the estimates to get all three wings done. And, you know, as Maureen scrolls through the different wings that are here, it's wings 3, 4, and 6, there's a little different twist to the basic design because of the layout of the space. You can see in wing 6 right here, we have bathrooms at the right at the top of the corridor. So one way to build that is just utilize the 2 existing entryways, join them in the center, and then have 8 classrooms going from a center servicing corridor, and 1 or 2 much smaller breakout spaces at the top near the door as your tutorial or support areas that are there. And wing 4 was a little bit different, but it's similar to 6
So
as far as
we currently. So I guess a question is that are we? Let's say we say, yeah, we gotta go build. Are we choosing kind of like what we want this to look like tonight?
No.
Or is
No,
this,
no, no.
okay.
no, this is just which concept we would like, or you would like us to
So it's
pursue.
either total renovation is one of the choices.
Yes,
Okay.
or a room redesign, room by room. So I think that probably, Lou, brings us back to the memo
Right.
where the board members tonight can hear the 3 possibilities.
Correct.
And then we can also share some survey data that we took at Wallace. So
Okay.
here is the possibilities.
Right. So the full renovation, we're looking at around the $10 million estimated cost price tag.
Now, would that have to go to referendum?
Or the town could choose to fund it year by year if they're willing to build that much into their budget appropriation.
So one choice would be yes, a referendum, $10 million out of the gate. Voters vote on it. That's one possibility. The second possibility is
You know, a series of appropriations, $3 to $3.5 million, $3 million a year, with $1 million in the 4th year for finishing touches, finalizing the project at that time, with the choice that the town would make of either we choose to pursue it as a full renovation with a state grant where you would get your 55, 57% reimbursement off the final number, or if they choose to say we don't want to pursue a grant, do it the most economical manner possible. We don't have the tie-ups with state-specific regulations. We just have to meet all the building codes and the basic ADA responsibilities going with the space. So that becomes the choice that's there. Or if you don't want to do the renovation technique, you would go with the limited program, was what Anastasia was speaking about, that she had seen at Wallace, where we walled off one classroom with a door and closed the other side to emulate what it would be, where along that edge wall, or you don't have it up on the screen anymore.
no.
I'm quite knowledgeable of that school because
Okay.
I had the joys of teaching CCD there. So
Okay.
go ahead.
So it's good to know that you've seen it. Bruce, have you seen Wallace?
I've worked there.
Okay.
So everyone at the table has seen it.
Right.
Yeah.
Except
So-
maybe Sam, unless his kids went there. I'm not sure.
I worked in those wings.
Right, and they're noisy.
It's noisy. It's not conducive.
Right.
So
And if you went with the limited, just build out that final wall for all the classrooms, so the basic configuration of the wing doesn't change, and really just harden the 10 classrooms as a group in each one. that will be much less expensive. You know, we're figuring $2,250,000 to get that done with only a 1-year horizon from start to finish to get that work done, where you would need 3 years to do the comprehensive renovation. There's not enough swing space in John Wallace to take out more than one wing at a time, and that would be even a challenge for them. You know, we'd have to
make
do some finessing.
Like we've done at Reynolds, like
Mhm.
4 classrooms in the library, stuff like that.
Right.
But we're not even there yet, because right now the board needs to choose between moving this to referendum, which, you know, I don't know how much traction that's going to get because we're still in the middle of Anna Reynolds, asking for a pay-as-you-go, full renovation, like $3 million a year.
If we did pay as you go,
Mm-hmm.
let's say we went with full rental pay as you go, even if it takes 4 years, 3, 3, 3, and 1.
Yes.
Would we still qualify for the state reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. We would have to follow their protocols, obviously.
Yeah, which sometimes
but-
jacked up the price a little bit.
Right.
But it's a similar as what just happened last summer, where the town appropriated close to $3 million for the high school roof project. And that was not a bond. It was simply an allocation
Through the budget.
through the budget process. So I think I heard another hand up.
And Sam.
There's 2 up.
Oh, did you?
Okay, Sam, go ahead.
All right, so I got a quick question. Lou, can you just talk a little bit about if we do like limited renovation, what does that entail? And then also like if we do the 10 million deal, then we get, well, if we follow all the guidelines, we get back 57% from the state. But in
Correct.
terms of the limited, how is that going to entail? Is that going to really make the classrooms quiet, or I mean, what's the objective?
Okay. Well, the goal is twofold from my perspective, is trying to facilitate a project for the benefit of the district. One is the student learning environment is one. The second part is the student safety and security. The larger part of this right now is the student safety. So our teachers are, you know, significantly uncomfortable working in those spaces because there is no way to close themselves in and do the shelter in place in each of these classrooms. If there is any breaching of a class, you know, the wing door to get in, all you have is soft-sided rooms. So all the intruder has to do is find a soft-sided or a space to get into any one of the rooms. They can just like push their way through the partition barriers between the classrooms, and it's chaos and bedlam in there. So in trying to harden the outer side on both sides, it would really create one very large classroom with these soft barriers in between. It wouldn't be a perfect arrangement. You know, you would have a very small classroom as a consequence of building it out this way, because you're not changing the organization of the rooms. So you'll be 550 feet or so of working space. 550 square feet of working space in each space, compared to typically 800 square feet for a regular classroom. You would still have noise transference that will happen between the adjoining classrooms, depending on how noisy things are, because you're not dealing with that part of it. And you still have, we have to do all the ventilation modifications, lighting modifications, making sure all the stuff you need to have a comfortable environment gets done in this limited scope. But you would have the safety and security, maybe 80% of what you would have had with a full renovation, but you would have a very mediocre learning environment, both for size and noise that's there.
Yeah. And I'd call the current learning environment mediocre as well. Loud. You know, you walk down those hallways, you hear a lot of noise. And the teachers, they try to block it out. The kids try to block it out, but you know, it's
easy
kids are
to get
kids, middle school.
Right.
So just so the board knows kind of the history here, we've had the Wallace teachers. Oh, I'm sorry. Hand up. Go ahead.
So a few things. One, I do agree with you, Dr. Brummett. My visual observation, like seeing like curtains up, like curtain rods up on a classroom, that wasn't pleasant to see. So I do agree with you. There's no way to block out noise that way. I am going to voice my opinion in regards to that pay-as-you-go option, because if we're allowed to do the pay-as-you-go and still get state reimbursement, I think that's something that maybe the town would favor, as well as the board. This is just my opinion. Number one, you said Anna Reynolds is still going on. I think if I had one of the two options to choose from, it'd be number one or two, because I really, really will advocate for this school being redone. And thank you for allowing me to view it. But the pay-as-you-go probably seems like a better option in my opinion, because it won't be such a financial hit to the town, seeing that Anna Reynolds is still currently being renovated, but it desperately needs to be done. I mean, the other thing I was going to suggest, and thank you for your presentation, I haven't seen all of it, is and I know there's some policy things coming up, is if I possibly, or Sam or Danielle, whoever wants to, as the finance chairman, I would like to be a part of the presentation and maybe see if we could present it just a little bit differently to the town to see if they could pay for it, because I think until you actually physically see it and tour it, and we did it during a school day, you realize, like, when we're walking into those classrooms, that we could hear the other kids in the other classrooms. The prototype just happened to be empty. I think that maybe if maybe like someone from this committee were there presenting it, I think we would have more of a yes, because like right now, just looking at the way it was presented, I'd be like, oh, okay. But because I went and actually saw it during school hours, and I don't know if Dr. Brummett, you're allowed to take anybody from the town council, whichever side, to see this, so they can like get a real life view that, look, this is an issue. Because I know we do have issues with getting money from the town. So maybe if they can physically see it and say, hey, listen, it's during school hours. Can you hear this? Because it was extremely loud when I mean, they weren't yelling, but it was extremely loud when I went there. I thought putting up little shower curtains or whatever that was just didn't represent Newington. And I feel like we're a town that has the money to fix it, and I think we should. I think pay as you go probably would be the best option. I think that if we did the third option, some of the things, people will say will be like, well, didn't they give money towards Wallace before? And then you have to rehash, well, the oil spill, and, all these extra things. But that is something that I think needs to be done. And Sam, I don't know if you've seen it, but I don't know how old your kids are, but the school, like if you tour it during the day, there's a need there. There's a desperate need. Putting up curtains with little shower rods, that's not
okay. Anastasia, what I could do, and your suggestion is has some really good merit to it. I can do a video of what it looks like in those wings, because I don't
during
know
the day.
Yeah, I think that's where the most impact would be, like what you saw, and show folks the lack of doors on the wall, on the classrooms, and the noise level. I can get my tech kids or some folks to get out there and do a mini video of a day in the life in one of those wings, because it is problematic, and you saw it firsthand. And I would agree, our prototype was and is a solution. It's not a great solution because of the things that you witnessed. You didn't, and there was no air handling in that room, and you didn't see the true finished product. But
yeah,
nevertheless, it's not ideal. And just so you see, I've met with the Wallace teachers, as Mr. Diaz has as well, and we polled them that, what do you think? Do you think we should go with this interim solution? And it was not a resounding yes. About 57% said, hey, let's do this interim solution. About 42% said, now let's wait and try to do a full wing renovation. So, I think there's certainly a desire for safety. And the other thing too is the teachers at John Wallace are frustrated because this has been on, talked about for a long time, but never done. So they're feeling like we want something done. So
has it ever been presented to the town before?
Well, yeah, Lou mentioned yes in 2016. I also had thought maybe I could pair it with Anna Reynolds back when I first arrived, but given all the pushback that I had with Anna Reynolds initially, it just didn't ever seem to be a good move to include that plus this now $10 million project. So the pay-as-you-go option may maybe palatable to the town.
We've never had like a dual presentation where like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know we have shared services and different things where, okay, so like you guys have already gotten Anna Reynolds and it worked great. It needed to be done. But I think that allowing others to be a part of the presentation so they can see that it's not just like Dr. Brummett and Lou who want something like this. I think that makes a significant difference. And like the thing is, you don't know until you try it, right? Because they're going to say, well, you wanted to do this with Anna Reynolds. We said no. But like, I physically have been there. There is no way if I was a teacher, I've never been a teacher, but I have a family full of teachers, that I would be able to teach. And the only thing blocking noise is like a shower curtain or whatever that was. That's just completely disruptive. It's impossible. But what makes me the most concerned, and anyone chime in, is 10 seconds for that door to close. I could get around the corner in 10 seconds. I mean, and that's really what stood out to me the most. And that's why I'm the finance chairman. I 100% would agree with redoing this. However we do it, I do think that it needs to be done. 10 seconds is too long. And my child or anyone else's child's life isn't worth 10 seconds. So it needs to be done. And I hopefully that I can advocate that to the board. I have no problem saying that to the town. I think that when people don't know, they just like, oh, you just want to spend more money. But I think if we can have someone, and I would 100% be that person to say, listen, I physically went there. It takes 10 seconds to close the door. My child's worth 10 seconds. You know what I mean?
Well, you know where I stand on safety. We've done pretty much everything we can do right now at Wallace safety-wise, except for this. I mean, we've done secure vestibules, bullet-resistant screens, doors that have big panic buttons on them. So this is we're at the point now of do this or not. Anyway, so that's that. The board would need to choose between those three options that we would put forward to the town. We should only put forward probably one option, or we can share our three thoughts with the town and let them have at it. They may go with the cheaper option, which is the the minimal fix, which has
Can we, as like me and Bruce as the chairman of this committee, can we all of us together choose 2 out of 3 and then move those to the board and not all 3? Because I'm really like advocating for like 1 or 2. And I feel like if we give too many options, like I don't know the saying, I'm not good at like little sayings like that, but I think if we give too many options, then it's going to make things take longer. So maybe if you guys are okay with it, Sam, Danielle, Bruce, if we like together right now in this committee choose 2 of the 3 and then push those forward to the board instead of 3 options, I really think like 1 or 2, option 1 or option 2, like are the best, the pay as you go, and then the referendum. I think referendum may be hard to convince, but whichever 3, like, can we decide that and then move those to the board if possible?
I heard another hand there.
Is that Sam?
So I think we should just choose. We should just have a vote, and we should just choose one option, and then And I think I feel like I haven't been to the classroom, and if you can like make a video, email it to hopefully the town council and us, but I think I just feel more comfy like doing the full renovation, because even if you do the the fix up 2.5 mil whatever, it's only 80%. It's still it doesn't really solve anything, and we need to make that investment in that school, and and let's go and get the 37% back from the state, and then follow all the guidelines, and then do a referendum, because we need people who live in this town, they know like we need to spend money on this. This has to be fixed, right? So just like Anna Reynolds. So that's my opinion.
But don't we get reimbursement if we do the pay as you go?
Yes.
Yes, if it's the full renovation. If it's the limited renovation, no.
Just the classroom modifications, but yes,
We can't do that.
2 scenarios allow us to get state renovation reimbursement.
Talking about 55% state reimbursement on 10 million.
Yeah,
it's really only a difference of like $2 million.
That's a very good example of why it might not be a bad idea.
I'm not in finance, but I'm pretty good at
No, I
it.
think I can teach.
So I have a question. So you're saying, like I said, option 1 and option 2, you can get reimbursements, correct?
That is correct.
So Sam, just so I can clarify, are you talking about just doing the referendum, or are you saying you're saying just pick one? I just want to understand what you're saying.
So let me, Lou, can you just clarify if we do the option 1, that's like 10 mil, right? And then we get reimbursed. option 2 is what, 3 million a year, and then we still get reimbursement?
Well, the option 2 will be a series of grants with the state.
Okay.
Because the state only operationalizes a grant request based on it being funded by the town. If the town funds it 3 million, 3 million, 3 million, 1 million, I would have 4 different grant applications that have to go through the process to get to the finish line. The net result will be exactly the same as far as money. But with the referendum, you're obviously authorizing the $10 million in bonds up front for the whole project. You still need 3 full years to get the project done because you can only do one wing at a time, whether it's pay for all of it up front or pay as you go. It really gets you to exactly the same place at the end. And either of those will net to the same dollar amount.
So
It's
net.
just-
So what if we go with option 2, and what if the town says, I'm not going to put like, how much does the town have to put up? What if the town says, I'm not going to spend money?
Well, then we can't go anywhere. The town always has the power of the purse to say, no, we're not going to fund it.
So that's why I'm saying we need to.
So we can do like option 1, and then let the people who live in this town do a referendum and let them vote on it.
Right, presuming we can get a referendum organized in brought forward.
And the
Yeah,
town.
so what's wrong with it? Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with a referendum, right? We did one for Anna Reynolds, and this is something that we need this funded.
Sam, the town would have to authorize that referendum to go forward.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the Anna Reynolds referendum was done during the election.
Yes.
So this would put it off another whole year if we went referendum.
Yes.
Because we'd
Right.
have to wait till next
We
November
would.
to get the referendum.
If
Right.
everything fell into place, this probably could be voted on by fall of 2023, because there's a lot of work that would need to be done to get it teed up to be a referendum, and that is a bit of backfill.
So the town has to make the decision either way, is what you're saying, for number 1 or 2.
They get to decide how they want to go. I mean, I would say if the board is supportive of a full renovation, then the pay-as-you-go might be
I think it's the best
way to go.
option. So can I make a suggestion? I don't think you should send an email with a video to the whole town council and the board.
No, I
do not think that that's a good option. I think that would just end up on Facebook or something crazy. I think that this committee only should look at that video, and then we should go from there. And then as we get to see it, then we decide. But I really think the pay as you go is the best option. I think that if we're going to get reimbursed the same, I think if people in the town hear the word referendum again and just like, oh my God, another $35 million project, I think that somebody else besides whoever is going to present, like a board member should be there as well to advocate for the project. And I'm going to say that because I do not think that there's much chance with Anna Reynolds to get this pushed through, even though I'm 110% saying, and it's recorded, that I'm for renovating this. I actually spoken to people before I even knew you were doing this, saying like, after I went to see Wallace, I said, hey, why don't we fix this? Has anybody said that? And I've had some conversations saying, why don't we fix this? And I've gotten some positive feedback, like, well, what's wrong with it? And I said, well, I don't have my video camera out, but like, look at what's wrong with it. Like, it's everything.
Anastasia, that it's very problematic, and the teachers are not happy. They don't feel safe. And our temporary fix could work, but it's only going to save us if we do one of the other solutions. It's only about, I don't want to minimize that $2 million is not a lot of money, but you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck if we do the renovation.
I think we shouldn't lead with the teachers are not happy. I think we should lead with safety and the 10-second thing.
Anastasia, they're not happy because of safety and security concerns and the loudness.
I want to just say, I don't need you to take your time to show me a video. I'm a teacher. I have been for 25 years. And I assure you, I know how chaotic that is with the open school. So don't waste your time on my behalf, please.
Got it.
I couldn't even hear what you said, but okay.
All right. So
I got a question for Lou.
Hold on just a second. So where we're at right now, we have looked at 3 options, and only 2 are reasonable to take to the board. Is that our consensus here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're talking room by room renovations, or, total renovations.
Those are the two choices.
Yeah.
So pay as you go in referendum.
Yeah. So what we do then is this would have to go to the board. The board is going to have to discuss this and then make a decision which one they want to present to the town. Because it's going to be the town that's going to have to make a decision on it.
Right. And just for process for our new board members is, ideally, we would submit the capital budget to the board, to the town rather, before the end of this calendar year. Last year, I did ask for an extension and I sent it their way in January, which I'm sure is still fine. But I do believe the board will need to discuss it.
Is there anything else on your CIP budget besides this?
Yes. And that's what we were going to get into next.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Was there another question? I can't see.
Sam has his hand up.
I hear,
Sam?
yep, I hear it.
Hi, I just one question for Lou. Like, so option one is like 10 million one shot. Option two is 3 million a year for 3 years. What's the in terms of like cost benefit, in terms of like the town funding this project? What's the big difference between these two options?
Well, the cost and the reimbursement will be exactly the same because they'll
Right.
be working off of the same set of specs. You would have one state grant instead of 4 with the pay-as-you-go. And that just is the complications of processing and collecting the money back from the state. No other difference than that. And it just provides the town the option of whether they are comfortable and, behind the project, or they can't get it behind the project enough to go for the bonding, but they will consider the pay-as-you-go arrangement, which once you get a foothold and you get going, I think the project will pick up its own momentum and will be well supported once you get over the first hurdle. And the first hurdle is really just, getting the money put up to make something happen. So if we're going to go for all the money up front, that'll be a larger or higher mountain to climb for everybody in developing the consensus behind the project. Where if we took the pay-as-you-go approach, we'll get the first wing done, and then if everybody is mad at it, they could always decline to fund it again afterwards because the town council will have that prerogative in the out years. So either I am confident it would be well done, well received by everybody, and it would not be a project that would be hung up because of bad community perspective on it.
Okay, and any risk from the state of not like reimbursing us?
No.
For any reason, like down the road, what if like 2 years we submit the application and we get rejected?
We would be fine on reimbursement. When we put this project in 6 years ago for grant funding, it was approved at the reimbursement level that year. I think it was like 55%. And the discussion behind it is the things that are missing in the John Wallace wings are the safety and security attributes in the fourth wall of every classroom. Those were never in the initial design. The state never participated in paying for it. So they would take the approach that those are reimbursable from dollar one for the project. And it's not like, you're just doing, dressing it up, you're repainting everything, you're putting new casework in, but you're really not doing anything. This is really a substantial renovation that promotes the state interests in the safety and security and the improvement to the learning environment, that reimbursement would not be an issue.
And besides the 57%, can we get some monies from the feds or not? Is it possible? Is there any grants there that we could use, or?
Nothing specific as of right now. I know
you can't double dip. You can't do
right. Yeah,
the same grant for the same.
Oh, okay.
Right. If we had $100,000 come from somebody else, they would take that $100,000 off the total bill and reimburse you, and you would be denied 57% on that 100,000. So, unless it's real major money and a real big breakthrough for some reason, sure. But overall, there really isn't a lot of advantage to doing that.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Lou.
Okay. So now we need to move on to what we got to look at.
There are just a few more things to discuss capital-wise. So this page simply lists what capital projects have been done historically over the last 5 or so years. So from 2014 to current 7. That's just historical. This is our current and projected use of the board CIP monies, just to show the board where this comes from. We get a $125,000 appropriation every year from the town. That's by charter, so that has to happen. There's a small amount of interest income that we're entitled to. And what we're seeing, though, is an increase in our tuition receipts, and that largely comes from our reimbursement from our open choice special ed students, largely, as well as some students who we're educating that have a different nexus. Another district is responsible for their education, so they have to pay us back. And then, of course, people wonder, where does the money go for when we rent out our facilities? It goes here. So we get annually in this budget about $1 million, but we're projecting it's going to go up to 1.2 million because, as you can see, our tuition receipts are going up. And that is a function of the fact that we have more open choice kids, and a lot of them do have special needs. So this is just a budgetary projection.
Question.
Yes.
This is always my concern, and I always hope for a different answer, and I'm not going to get one. So the tuition receipts that we get, so we get tuition reimbursement from outside towns.
Largely Hartford.
Okay, so can we just say Hartford?
Why not?
Largely Hartford, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Those tuition reimbursements, or those tuition receipts, never go back into the operating budget?
They do not. By charter, they do not.
And those kids, though, cost money to educate.
That's correct.
I don't like that.
This is the way it's by Newington charter.
Right.
Other districts don't do it this way.
My
But
big concern, big picture is we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. We're getting more money in the CIP, but it's costing us more money to educate those kids. And our class sizes are big. And, if they're coming with any kind of, lag in their learning, it costs us money to backfill and fill that. And so that just worries me. It's fine, but I just, big picture, like, I want to make sure that we're not killing our operating budget in the greatness of increasing our CIP.
well, it is important to know that we also get money into the operating budget from open choice, but that's for regular ed open choice.
So this is just reimbursement for special ed
Only.
Oh, okay, that's fine then.
And it's quite a bit of money. It's
This is just
millions of
special ed
dollars.
reimbursement.
Special ed only.
Okay,
The regular ed money that we get for all open choice kids, which is going up this year,
right.
we use as an offset to the board's budget.
Okay.
Operating.
So I did get a different answer.
See?
you did.
See?
We're getting there.
Two hands.
Oh, go ahead. Dr.
Sam,
Fletcher.
go ahead.
Hey, Maureen, a quick question. With the tuition we get back for open choice special needs, right? So,
Correct.
like for example, we got, like, I'm just giving you an example. We got 50 kids. The special needs, right? Is our town getting reimbursed 100%? Are we breaking even, or are we losing money?
No, we get 100% reimbursed for all the costs of our special ed open choice students. We also get this year, we're waiting to get the final numbers, but we get at least $8,000 per student for open choice students. And that goes into the operating budget. So we do get fully reimbursed, for lack of a better word. There's also bonus money. At some point when we have the numbers ready, I can share with the board how much open choice money we do get. There's several silos of it. Probably $1 million in special ed reimbursement, and then $1.5 million in regular ed tuition reimbursement. So
overall, the town is getting back basically more than what we spend. Would that be right? Or
I wouldn't say more than what we spend. I would say 100% of what we spend on special ed costs. It'd be hard for me to figure out whether I believe we're getting at least what we spend on all of our regular ed as well. I really do.
So we're not subsidizing. Our taxpayers are not subsidizing.
No,
Okay.
no, because that would not fly. I think people need to know that we're getting the money back from open choice to offset.
Right.
And I won't say we're making money on the deal, but we're breaking even.
Yeah, we need to know that, right? Yeah. Thanks.
I think so. Otherwise, taxpayers may take offense at it.
Yeah.
Yep. Anastasia?
I'm not sure if my question was answered, but who's presenting the CIP budget to the town?
We haven't determined that yet.
Okay. I thought you started to answer the question. Sorry, then it stopped.
No.
So I'm sorry. Okay. I just want to make sure and see. And can you let us know when, before you're going to do, are you going to do that like before, since we're getting a new town manager, or are we like, how is that going to work?
The first transmission is nothing more than a paper transmission, and that happens more likely than not in early January. Then in February or March, probably March, right, Lou?
Well, we have to have the board pass their version of the budget by the end of February, which goes to the town manager. Town manager then does whatever he wants to do to present the budget to the town council for everybody on March 15th.
Right. So on March 15th, Anastasia, is when the town will hear our request for both capital and operating after the town manager has vetted it and made, but his word isn't final, or I guess it'll still be his then, because the town council can debate it as well. So to answer your question, March 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Not in the near future.
Okay.
So that we've already discussed this. So here's just an update on where we are for this year. This is what the board voted on last year, but as we've said to the board throughout these processes, as the year unfolds, your needs start to shift, and we have made some shifts in the capital budget. So we just wanted to talk to the board about that. We are recommending under HVAC to leverage some unused items right now and either use that HVAC money to improve the NHS science wing, which they are constantly complaining about heating and cooling in the NHS science wing, or if we were to go with the just a classroom renovation, which sounds like we're not going to go with at Wallace, this would pay for the HVAC conversion. But so more likely than not, this year we're going to recommend this go to the NHS science wing because of ongoing environmental concerns there. District playground renovations, you never know what those are going to be. This actually turned out to be a repair. There's 2 slides at John Wallace that have holes in them. John Patterson, thank you. With holes. Too many Johns in the world. But it turns out that they have holes in them, so we have to repair them this year due to safety concerns. Chromebook budget, the board voted last year to have an annual Chromebook replacement plan, and that's $750,000. We have not changed that at all. And then district-wide blacktop and paving, we are recommending that we look at paving the Newington High School North lot, which desperately needs it. And it's also been promised that once that's paved, we're going to number the spots so that it's a much more orderly parking situation in the morning. To do that, we would have to ask for some supplemental funds, and it's not extra money. It's just money that is sitting in, what's the right word, Lou?
The undesignated portion of the board.
Of ours, yeah. So
the money is there available to be acted on. We just have to go do a formal request to the town council to accomplish it. Last time we did it was 2 or 3 years ago when we had to knock down the chimney stack at Martin Kellogg because it was becoming unstable. So,
and this would just be a basic paving job. Anyone that's been in that high school kids parking lot knows it's in very, very poor condition. And then last but not least, we had district-wide vehicles. These are maintenance vehicles, not buses. We ended up only having to spend a portion of that allocation because we traded in some vehicles. So that money could be put forward to either the paving project or the HVAC project. So this just is current, and this is nothing new about new allocations. What we're recommending for next year is the following. Again, this is a snapshot in time. We don't know what emergencies are going to come up. We couldn't have foreshadowed this year that John Patterson was going to have 2 holes in their slides and that they were going to cost $30,000. And yes, that's the true cost. Or that the science department has, significant concerns about their HVAC. Those are things that come up that you don't always know about at the time of budget development. So here's what we're planning right now is, again, keeping HVAC. Those upgrades tend to come every year. carpet and flooring. You never know when that's going to happen. Painting, playground renovations or restorations, district-wide safety and security, and the technology infrastructure and paving. The next person on deck for paving would be John Wallace. If you've been to John Wallace, you know their
That's a mess.
front parking lot is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
So, and district-wide vehicles, that's an annual, usually there's at least one of our maintenance vehicles that needs to be turned over into a trade-in and get a different one.
If we go to the town with this, we want this renovation.
Mhm.
Is there any part of this money that can be used towards that? So like if we I'm all about that olive branch and about the good faith effort, right? So is there anything like, can we say we can give you out of our $1.2 million, we'll pay for $500,000. Like we'll give $500,000 towards that $3 million ask. And I'm just,
We could. We had actually considered that. My wonder from the board is someone might say, well, if we allocate, because right now we have to do $750 for technology, so that leaves us with $450, give or take. That would be the only two things out of that account. So we're hedging our bets that we're not going to need money for other things. But yes, we could do that. Absolutely.
Anastasia, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. I know last year we put a lot of things on the back burner, like the HVAC, and I'm uncomfortable letting the HVAC get undone for 2 years for a wing. I'm more comfortable
Here we are.
getting everything we need plus that renovation. I don't think we should, and this is just me, I do not think we should give them money out of our budget and then say we're going to sacrifice the HVAC, because I'm trying to go back through my emails because I'm trying to compare last year's slideshow with this year. And the HVAC, if I remember correctly, was put on hold again before I was on the board. And now again, you can't keep putting stuff like that on hold. It says the HVAC, where is it? It's the HVAC upgrades district-wide. This would be the third year, if I'm reading it correctly, because we did ask last year, I'm looking at my notes, that it be put on hold.
Can you see the screen, Anastasia? On the screen is the actual current allocation. And
so it says initial was 60,000.
Yep.
To be determined 150. And then let's compare that to last year, the last slides that we looked at last year. That's what I'm pulling up on my phone. The PowerPoint you sent out while we were going over this exact thing last year, and that needed to be done again. So I don't know if you have that. It was yellow last year. This year it's white.
Yeah, I don't know. That might have been a draft, because this is actually the real budget for this year.
So how many years have we been waiting to do HVAC upgrades?
Well, we've done some. We had a major project 2 years ago that took about 6 months to complete, which was designed to eliminate as much of the pneumatic component of HVAC equipment around the district as possible. It's becoming, extremely difficult to find technicians to handle that work. And everybody coming out of trade school these days is only doing the digital support. So as our equipment is failing, we're trying to move everything to the digital world, but we need to have the digital platform ready for it through the transition of pneumatics to digital. And that was the major effort at the high school, John Patterson, and at Martin Kellogg. The other schools are in better shape. We still have, rentals obviously is being taken care of fully as part of this project, but we still have vestiges at the high school and at John Patterson that need to be addressed, but those are small. Like we have 4 pieces of equipment that are small on pneumatics at Patterson, and there's maybe 20 of them at the high school.
So just so I can clarify, Lou, and I'm very familiar with HVAC. My stepdad works with Tocon. So are you telling me that you're having a hard time finding technicians who can work on old furnaces? Now, I know with my own self being a landlord, I had a hard time finding parts for older HVAC equipment and moved to digital myself. Is that what you mean? Like you're having a hard time?
No, not that kind of difficulty. The skill set, you have the equipment installation, equipment maintenance, and the control aspects to make everything work properly.
Mm-hmm.
Old control measures were done through pneumatic, which is just air pressure going down hoses, pushed out by a compressor unit at the school, and basically all manual adjustments. All of our equipment in this area is 50 to 60 years old and is getting frail and brittle and more unreliable. So we're spending a disproportionate amount of time keeping those up. And our staff member, who is our HVAC specialist, doesn't have that many more years left working for us. And then we've got to start all over again. And the probability of having a in-house expert that is extremely well versed in a substantial portion of pneumatic equipment and a substantial portion of digital is not very realistic. What our plan is, when that transition happens, the new staff member becomes the digital specialist, and we hire out for our remaining pneumatics if there are any left to do, until we can completely obsolete that from our fleet of equipment that's here.
So how much would it cost to upgrade all the HVAC systems?
To just get rid of pneumatics?
Yeah, and just get everything new. I mean, it's costly, but it's worth it.
Probably $250,000 to get rid of.
$250,000, which we could keep, right, and get it all fixed instead of spending it towards a project that we can just ask for the money for and referendum.
That's not the equipment. That's not the equipment. That's just the control measures. You have the computer brains that run all of these systems.
So what's the total cost?
And that's the change out we're talking about. The air conditioning equipment or the heating unit would still be 20 to 30 years old and only be able to have a certain remaining useful life before it has to be replaced. So there's two elements to the HVAC. It's the control costs and then the equipment costs themselves that we have to deal with. And controls are the specialty handling of getting out of pneumatics into the digital world, while the equipment is just universal. It really doesn't matter whether you choose to run it on pneumatics or run it on digital. Doesn't matter to the equipment. You just the devices you put into it to make that interconnection work is the only difference between the two approaches.
So we haven't been neglecting HVAC.
Yeah.
We've
No, I'm not saying that. I know that.
Doing it.
Yeah, that's not my thing. So I bought a house that was built in. I bought a couple that are built in the 50s, so I had to upgrade my whole HVAC and plumbing and everything. And it's actually more cost efficient to run like my gas and my lights and everything with the new HVAC as opposed to the other one. I saw a significant difference in my bills. So I'm just wondering what would be the total cost to upgrade the whole system, and maybe we could, that would save us a lot of money in other ways, which I've experienced personally. I mean, what would the cost be to do everything?
This is a complete spitball estimate off the top of my head, but I'd say we would be somewhere between $5 and $8 million to get everything up to less than 5 years of age that's in service in the district. Starting in the late 90s, when we had really no air conditioning in the buildings, when we started adding air conditioning resources to go with the heating system. Those units are now approaching the end of their useful life. So we have to start making a conscious plan for replacing air conditioning equipment around the district. That's probably $3 to $4 million of total work that would need to be done, but it doesn't all need to be done at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious.
Right.
Yeah, so you can see that if we were to take that as a priority, which we are really
not, no.
That would be a costly endeavor. So, these are the things that we are estimating for next year. As you saw in the previous slide, things change as the year unfolds when you have unexpected concerns or things cost more. But this is our current recommendation for how to allocate this $1.2 million.
I had one more question, Dr. Brown. I'm sorry. You have 1.2 million. Is it in the charter that you get 1.2? Is there any way it can be increased?
That would require a charter revision. Our cap is 1.2 million.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering, because it doesn't seem like we ever have enough. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's capped. And if we were to go over, that overage would go back to the town. So obviously we typically have no problem spending it because these are issues that we deal with year after year. But getting into the meat and potatoes of next steps, we've prepared 3 different pages to reflect the 3 discussions tonight with John Wallace. It's important to note that the only other thing we're recommending into the capital besides the John Wallace component is the school security enhancements. We still have some additional work that needs to be done at the high school in that front entryway. It's still, the gals that sit there and monitor are not properly protected. And then the John Wallace wings, we're just proposing a possibility here of 2.2 million. And then the bus replacement cycle that I believe the town really is supportive of, that went through last year. And I think, it seemed like it was something that was palatable to the town manager and the town council. So this is one possibility for if we were go just with that limited reno, just get it done in 1 year, just do the doors, that's 2.2 million. If we were to,
Right, you can see the reference at the bottom. It's the John Wallace option C, which was the limited reno.
limit, okay,
Right.
So this is John Wallace option B, in which we just do 3 million for the next 3 years with possibly another million in the 4th year. And that would be get it done gradually. The town just allocates 3 million a year. And yes, it's eligible for state grant reimbursement. Nothing else on this slide changes. We're still advocating for the bus replacement cycle and the school security enhancements. And then last but not least is a bond. And that's in that separate page where we do our bonding. And that would be asking for a referendum to be $10 million up front. Likely the referendum, if everything were to fall into place in a perfect world, would be on the ballot next November and would likely start the following year. The only other thing we're putting out here as a future bond project is the turf field, which every year Chris Myers advocates for it. We're kind of one of the last districts in the state that doesn't have it on their football field for this school, but we are prioritizing John Wallace ahead of a turf field. And that's really it for this capital presentation. What we need to do is determine whether we bring all 3 of those options to the board, the full board, or whether we simply choose 1 or 2 based on the work of this committee.
I don't think bonding is an option, in my opinion. And I think that we're all kind of on the same page of do the 3-3-3-1.
Mm-hmm.
My only concern again is it's a lot of money. We know that we are not in the best of. I think it's better with James. I do. But I just, if there's, and the same thing I said last year, if there's any place in our CIP budget that we can trim to do that, like, listen, like, we know this is expensive. We know that we're going to have to tighten our belts for the next 3 years because we're asking for so much money. And I don't know if there's anywhere in that, the CIP fund, where we could say, we get 125, we'll give 100,000, even $100,000 back. You know what I mean? Just as a word, because if you're talking about that 3 million, it's not 3 million. It's only like 1.4 million, really.
Once the reimbursement comes in, it goes to the town.
Right.
All these reimbursements go right back to the town.
1.4. So then if we say we'll give you 100,000, now we're talking like it's just more palatable to the taxpayers. It's more palatable to the town to say we need this done. It's absolutely our priority. It's the safety of our students, it's the safety of our staff.
Yeah, the 125 really isn't designated. Is that a fair statement, Lou?
Correct, right.
It's just there.
Part of the general board discussion and authorization for whatever projects they want to pursue with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's available,
Plus, after not this year, but next year, we're only going to be asking for Wallace. By then, all of our security enhancements will be done. So this is going to be just this. And again, in a perfect world, if no curveballs get thrown at us.
Anastasia, you have a question?
Wasn't the track something that was supposed to get done last year that we didn't do? What happened to that?
It never made the priority list. It was bundled into the turf field. And actually, though, we might.
Yeah, that was on last year's. That's why I said there's something missing. I'm not going crazy. There was like the track was on there.
We ended up zeroing it out for other things. So if you're looking at your screen,
yep.
Yes, track restoration. In fact, I believe Chris Myers felt strongly that we should do that at the same time as the turf field whenever we end up doing that.
So it's not in desperate need right now or last year, since you asked for it last year?
He feels it's got a little more life in it. It's not great, but it's got life in it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So what we have to decide right now is what do we bring as a presentation to the full board?
Correct.
Am I correct?
Because we can put this on the December agenda.
Yeah.
At least as a first read.
Yeah.
And then the board could fully vote on it in early January.
All right. Let me throw out one option. We just present the pay as you go, full renovation, but pay as you go. And that's the only one we present.
I agree.
Sam?
Yep, I think option 1 and 2.
We all just said just option
Would,
2.
Option 2.
Yeah.
Which is on the screen right now, Sam.
This is option 2, right? Pay as you go.
It is. It's B.
So I think I think what Lou said was like option 1 and 2 are like basically same thing, and there's no risk of like us losing funding, right? So and then and with option 2 you don't need a referendum, right? So with option 1 you do. So
correct.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean I'm just saying like if you're gonna put forward like 2 options, my recommendation is put option 1 and 2 both in front of the town council, and then we go from there, and also in front of our board.
Yeah, well, that would be coming to our board. We could present the same thing that we're looking at here right now. And
Right.
have a discussion on it. I personally think that what it comes down to it, that we're all going to say that we need to go with the pay as you go over 3 years.
Right.
We get the same, it's going to take the same amount of time. We get the
Yeah.
same amount of reimbursement, but we don't have to wait another year. But you're actually, in reality, going to look at almost 2 years, because by the time it gets through referendum, then you got to try to get your bonding,
And
all of
that's
that in
another year
place.
and all that stuff.
Right.
It's actually a little quicker. That's an important point.
Yeah. So I think option 2 might be.
Okay.
We could just do option 2 then, right?
All right.
Sounds like this subcommittee's in agreement.
All right. I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yes.
Yep.
A moment ago, you spoke to having it over 3 years. Would you want to change it and make like 3 million, 3.5 million, 3.5
No,
million?
I think 3331 is more palatable.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's great.
All right, and then that really is the capital plan. So what I'm hearing from the board tonight, move it forward to the board for the December meeting. Eliminate all options except B or 2, whatever people referred it to. And then everything else can be discussed as well. And if anyone wants a tour, we can do that. And I'll see if I can pull together a quick video between now and the December board meeting. As a follow-up, Anastasia, to the finance subcommittee, you had asked for just a listing of all people currently paid for by grants.
Yes.
So I've prepared that with the assistance of Lou and the business office. So it's on the screen right now, and it shows which grant and how much. But as you can see, it's a pretty lengthy list. It is important to know, and it actually goes to 2 pages. I'm sure the $64,000 question is, of all these grant-funded positions, which grant money is going away? And the answer to that question is ESSER 2 no longer exists at the end of this year. And that's it. The rest continue forward.
but not forever, right? Because
No.
the other one's ESSER.
ESSER, ARP ESSER.
2 ends at the end of 2022, 2023.
Yes. And then our ARP ESSER 3 ends this time next year. We'll be talking about it. I would like the board to know that we had a meeting earlier today, and we have figured out we're either reducing some of these positions, not eliminating, but cutting them back to part-time, which is where they were before the grant came from the state, the ARP money, actually that's federal. And we've also analyzed the ARP 3, and that money, there is more money in there. So there's been ARP ESSER 3. It's this one down here. I'm sorry. I sometimes that's here. We realized after doing an audit today that there is more money in this grant that can absorb some of these people next year. We can also put some of these people into title grants the following year. And some of these positions, like the reading people, are going to be cut back to part-time. They were elevated to full-time during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to bring them back down to where they were. And we're also able to put the equity and inclusion specialist into another recurring, he'll be split among several grants. But in other words, we have figured out how to reallocate these people or reduce their time and put them elsewhere in our budget and not negatively impact the operating budget.
So, but moving forward, the ESSER 3
Yep.
ones, as you know, the awesome math, all the coaches are in there. So is the long-term plan that we're eventually going to eat that, or are we going to like put these people back in a classroom? Are they going to replace? Like, I'm really, and again, it's 2 years down the road, but the plan, you know, like I see a math interventionist. If there's a math teacher that retiring, or although I think a math interventionist is a good idea. So we'll go with the math coach. So like the math coach, like will they
Math coach is going away.
Yes.
I knew you'd like that answer.
Good answer.
Some of these are going to go away.
Okay.
We are still analyzing. I mean, what we did today was reduce those reading folks back to where they were.
I have a question.
Yeah, just one moment.
So, yes, we will have similar decision making next year. All of these folks who were hired knew that these positions would not necessarily continue after the sunset of the grant. So it'll be incumbent upon the board, this subcommittee, as well as our own administrative team, to put forth recommendations about this group next year.
Before she speaks, I have a more important question. Is there a bathroom in here, or do I need to go
Nope.
out?
I will show you
Right
and
around the corner.
All right.
Right there.
take a left. It's
Now
going to
she
be
can
dark
speak.
here. That's the only thing I want to in the hallway. Right here. Once you walk in, it should. There you go.
So Dr. Brumwood will be back in the room in just a few seconds here.
No problem.
All right. So you have a question, Anastasia?
So the reading interventionist, was this just familiarizing me with what is their goal? To boost reading scores? To like, what is the point of the reading interventionist?
I'm just looking at which position you're talking about.
ESSER 2, reading.
Yeah. These are people who are working with children who have reading challenges.
Okay. So have they overcome those reading challenges?
Not completely, no. I mean, these positions aren't going away, but they're going to be reduced from full-time to either 3/4 or half-time.
Okay. So I had inquired about a grant writer possibly, because with the reading scores nationwide, not our school, nationwide, being impacted by COVID and the pandemic, I am not okay with cutting back a reading specialist for children who are still in need. So I am going to say that. And I wonder whatever came of looking for a grant writer. I know that maybe we could look for one maybe that's out of college or someone, or maybe if we can share, I think her name was Sonia, with the town possibly. What can we do in regards to that? Because I just don't think with COVID happening that we should cut back a reading specialist. I understand some of the math ones. Okay, I get it. That's what Danielle like, but reading is so important and these children are still in need. And I just wonder how that would impact them. And if there's anything we can do to, like, I know they knew that this position wasn't permanent, but kind of save that position.
Well, certainly we'll look to see if we get title grants every year, and they tend to go up every year. And I was in a recent conversation with Miguel Cardona, and he said he's going to advocate for more title monies. Again, he also has pushback on his end at the federal level, like we have pushback at the local level. But so that's a possibility. I did do what I had promised, Anastasia. I queried everyone in my DIRG, all my superintendent colleagues, and no one in our DIRG D, has a grant writer on staff that's basically, as we do it here, turfed to central office. I write grants, Wendy writes grants, Kristen writes grants, Steve Farisi writes grants.
Yeah, I remember you went over this, but just because others in our DIRG don't do it doesn't mean that we can't do it. So I still am going to advocate for that. I mean, we can maybe set an example, because we shouldn't be cutting back anyone to part-time when the children still have a need. I understand we'll be looking for more, but reading is important. You got to, you have to read to get through life usually. So I think that, I don't know if, let's say if we're not wanting to commit to that. I know Sonia does do grant writing for the town. Is that her name, Sonia? Yeah, I think it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what her name is. Her name is Sonia Richmond, and she's the town grant writer. I think maybe she can assist. And I had a conversation with her, and because I asked, I think it was James. I asked who helped, and he said Sonia Richmond, and they contract her, and the town council decides whether they keep her or not. And I'm pretty sure they kept her, so maybe she can help us, so we wouldn't have to go out and look for one. She's worked for the town, and I think I asked her, and she'd be more than willing to help the school system.
Well, if she's ready, willing, and able, I think the other thing, besides having a grant writer, that when you look at grants that we would be eligible for, besides the ones that we apply for and typically get, it some of it does depend on your socioeconomic status. And that's why I will say Vernon has a grant writer, but they're an alliance district, so they have a much higher poverty rate than us, and they're eligible for a lot more grants. So a lot of grants that are offered at this federal level really are geared toward impoverished districts. While
we are getting all that housing, so I mean that could change things. And the fact that she's already hired by the town, I think maybe she can look for things, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, I know a bunch of my friends own a lot of land. So I know that there, are plenty of additional housing going up in Newington, or, they're working on, that's going to be the affordable housing. So I'm pretty sure with everything coming up with, people I know in my financial world, that we're going to get so much. And the other thing is, it's kind of like going back to the thing. So with the John Wallace, I forgot to ask you this. We're just making classrooms. What happens when we get all these children in? Are we going to be able to accommodate them all? I forgot to ask you that.
We've done an analysis with our projection agency called NESDEC. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can have Steve Farisi share with the board that we have looked at what the possible number of students could come our way because of all these developments, and we can accommodate them. Some of them are going to feed into Reynolds, and a scattering elsewhere. But I can have Steve report to the full board. I just don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't have those numbers with me tonight.
But yeah, I think we should look into Sonia Richmond, because I did have a conversation with her, and I wanted to know who the town was using, and I wanted to see if the town was renewing her and how well she did. And they actually, with the town council rated, okay, this is how much she brought in versus how much, they had before. And even if we could use her on a part-time basis, I think that would eliminate you having to look for someone, as well as she was willing to help, especially seeing that we're having all these kids coming in and people, and I just think it would be beneficial, and it wouldn't hurt to have an extra hand.
Okay. And in fact, I can easily reach out to James and get more information about her role. And again, none of us would complain about having an extra set of hands. It's just about cost.
I think they get paid based on, so there's different ways. So doing my research, you could either pay them like a salary, or they can get paid based on how much they bring in. So I think the second option was how it was working. So I think maybe that's something we can explore. And if they don't really bring stuff in, okay. that's what you get paid based on. So I know those are two ways that I was explained that grant writers get paid, and just maybe seeing what she can do to help. If it doesn't work out, we could possibly pilot it,
Okay.
to do a contract.
I will reach out to her and see what her current role is and what her knowledge base is about educational grants. Thank you. And then I'll turn it back over to the chairs because that concludes the new business.
All right. So we don't have public participation on the agenda any further. There's nobody from the public anyway. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Thank you all so very much for your participation.
Thank you. I'm so
Have a
excited.
great night.
You too. Bye.